Hi, I'm Eric Kellner, and I'm going to show you how to make a self-grading quiz, this time using Flubaroo. All right, and the reason I would want to use Flubaroo is because the native quiz app, which is brand new for summer of 2016 for Google Forms, only supports multiple choice and drop-down quizzes. Flubaroo supports every type of question, but it's a little tricky at times, but I'll show you how to do some of the basics. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to head on over to My Drive. And we are going to make a new, well, I'm not going to make a new quiz. I'm going to pick an old quiz that I've made just so you can see how it works and we don't have to work out some of those details. All right, I'm going to choose the density and buoyancy quiz. All right, and I've already divided this quiz and chosen a theme, and I can show you later how to do those things. I'll have videos on that. But I've started out with my template, and then I can put the density and buoyancy quiz. And I use a template that puts just last name, first name, and class period. And that is the first section of all my quizzes. The other things I want to make sure I do is make sure I restrict the sign-in to your school district users. You're collecting email addresses. You limit it to one response because this can be a summative quiz. You can make it formative or summative with Flubaroo. Flubaroo is just an add-on. So I want to limit it to one response. Yeah, I only want them to have one response. I want response receipts. Yeah, I want to know if they have already, if they request it, they can get a response receipt. And if it's a formative quiz, I can have them edit it after they submit. Sometimes I want to limit that. If it's a summative quiz, I don't want them to edit it yet. I usually give them their grade, and then I will click this edit after submit. I will enable that for them after I get all the grades in. So I'm going to save it like this. And so I just go in and you type in all the questions that you want. So for this type of quiz, if I'm going to be, this is not a, here we go. This is a quiz where this is a short answer. So with the short answer, with Flubaroo, it's going to check your answer against the exact type answer. So what I often do with fill in the blank answers is I'll give them a word bank ahead of time so that when they want to put their short answer in there, they can just copy and paste it so it will match exactly what my answer is. And there's other things you can do in Flubaroo as you get into Flubaroo that you can make contingencies for whether they capitalize a letter or not, or they accidentally put a space in, or common mistakes you can kind of account for. So question 2, I still have the word bank. Question 3, I have each question be a section so that they only look at that one question at a time. And so the word bank kind of stays for them. And then you have your multiple choice questions. And then the identity of substances, we have multiple choice, and so on and so forth. So question 12, there we have it. So now we go to, once you've made your quiz, and in this quiz I've already gotten a bunch of responses. And when I want to look at the responses, what I really want is to go to the view responses in Sheets. And so once they get all their responses, once we get all our responses, I'm going to go, and I just got a little Flubaroo announcement. I'm going to go to my add-ons. And so I'm going to choose Flubaroo. And if you haven't gotten Flubaroo, you're just going to go get add-ons and type up Flubaroo, and you can get that. And once you get it and load it, you can use Flubaroo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable auto grade. because it's already been graded. So there's the account that I'm using. All right, so I go back to Flubaroo, and I'm like, I want to regrade the assignment, or I want to share the grades, or I do some advanced things. I can enable auto grade. That's what I'd want to do if if I'm just setting it up, and then it'll grade as it comes in. So lots of things you can do with Flubaroo, but the basic is you want to grade the assignment. If it hasn't been graded before, it's not going to say regrade. It's going to just say grade assignment. So I'm just going to regrade the assignment and see how they do. So now it's just going to churn and churn and churn and be working. Replace existing grades. Yes, I want to replace existing grades. And so it's going to take you through some steps. You want what it's going to ask you, which questions are doing what. These are questions in identify students. Yeah, you want to identify students. So you don't want points. So the username question, first name, last name, class period, those are all student identifiers. So you have the choice of whether that question is going to be an identifier. You want to skip the grading, you want to put normal grading, or you want to grade by hand, which means you would just read it and put a score in, which is really nice because in the Google native app for quizzes, it's pretty much just 2 types of questions, and you can't grade by hand. So Flubaroo is much more powerful than that. That's why I like to use it. So here's normal grading. An object will sync if the buoyant force. So you can give up to 10 points for that quiz question. So this one is just how many points you're going to give it. So I look at all my questions and say, oh yeah, those are normal gradings. Oh yeah, this question I actually, it was blank, so I'm skip grading on that one. And then when I went to go make the grades or make the quiz, I had a few questions that I said, oh, I don't like that question. And so I deleted that question, but it still kind of shows up in the spreadsheet. So you kind of have to be careful and look for the questions that aren't the ones that you want. And a lot of times it will show up in the spreadsheet as just a blank response because it didn't show up in the student section. So you'll just get all these answers in the spreadsheet, and it will be blank. So I can go and say, yeah, I want to skip grading on that one, skip grading on that one. And so moving right along, once I've gotten all the ones that I want to do normal grading for, and the ones that I want, maybe have a different point value for, I'm going to hit continue. And then it's going to ask you which submission should be used as the answer key. So what you should do before you do Flubaroo is you should go in and take the quiz first and make sure you put in all the correct answers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my answer as, and it already has my answer as the correct response. So I'm going to continue with that. And it's going to go ahead and grade my assignment. And it's going to take a little bit of time. It's going to go to grading in progress and take a couple of minutes. And what Flubaroo does is it makes a new tab. So it's not going to grade within your student submissions tab. It's going to take those student submissions and it's going to create a new sheet, and that would be the grading sheet. So it doesn't do it doesn't do anything that to ruin the data within your student submissions. And what's kind of cool is Flubaroo comes up with tips. And it's just while you're waiting, it'll give you a tip. It can accept more than one correct answer, and so you can kind of find out how to do that. All right, so now it has everything that you need. It has your username, first name, last name, class period. The username is their email address, which comes in handy when you want to give them feedback. And it can email them their score and what they did wrong. and you have a choice of whether you want to give them feedback when you do the grades. So now I have all the grades done, and I can have a detailed report of how everybody did. I can see how they did on each of the, sorry about that, how they did on each of the questions, how the class did on each of the questions. So they did a really nice job on these first 3 questions. All of them, 80% or more, got it right. Oh, and it'll flag one that they didn't really do very well. So that'll pop up in yellow. So this class, only 32% got that question right. So I know that that's a question I kind of need to go back over and check in with them about. Oh, and this one too. The one I only 55% got that right. So it's a really powerful tool, so you can see who got what, who got what score, and also how the class in general is doing with these questions. All right, so there's other things. Once you get that, you've graded it, but you haven't given feedback. So what we want to do is share grades. So you want to share the grades with your students, and the email question, you use your username, and share via email, which is typical. I don't know, you can go to Google Drive if you want and put it in there. And you include a list of questions and scores, which I like to do. I don't like to include an answer key, at least because we'll go over what the answers actually are in class. But students who, so the ones that got it wrong, we'll just go over that in class. I mean, it's up to you. Sorry. Okay, and you can put a message to include if you want. Thank you for taking the quiz, or whatever you want. I don't usually put anything in there at this point. So we'll continue, and then the grades will get shared with the students. And that's how you get to share the grades. All right, so that is it for this part of using Flubaroo. That has many, many functionalities beyond that, which I can get into at other videos. But that is basically how you make a quiz, and you can automatically give grades and feedback back to your students. So thank you for watching. Signing out.